The Virginia Horse Industry Board, Southwest Virginia Agricultural Association, and the Virginia Christmas Tree Growers Association are proud sponsors of Virginia farming.
This program is brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Large or small, Virginia farmers work year-round to help put food on your table. And Farm Bureau works year-round to help farmers and all Virginians. Farming, it's all good. To learn more, go to vafarmbureau.org.
Polaris, featuring its hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicle, the more powerful Sportsman 850 HO and the workhorse Ranger XP. Hunt, farm, or trail, Polaris has a vehicle for them all at Polaris.com.
Hi everybody, welcome to Virginia Farming. I'm Amy Rocher. There are some good things to include in your fall lawn care regime that will really benefit your yard come spring. This week on Ag Insights, we'll talk to Extension Turfgrass Specialist Mike Goatley and Shawn Askew, an Extension Turfgrass Weed Specialist. Then we'll learn about feeding birds when we go in the garden, and we'll have the Ag Calendar, a destination spotlight, and a Minute in the Field video. All this plus the Ag News of the Week on this edition of Virginia Farming. Virginia Cooperative Extension has selected Maxwell Watkins of Sutherland as the Virginia Farmer of the Year, an award that recognizes individual contributions to the Commonwealth's agriculture industry. Robert Grisso, Associate Director of Agriculture and Natural Resources for the Virginia Cooperative Extension, said Watkins is an example of the enterprising spirit demonstrated through hard work on the farm and developing a startup business. His marketing and land conservation measures are examples of how farm enterprises will remain sustainable for the next 6 generations. His desire to partner with his 2 sons is a true inspiration. Although actual yield numbers won't be reported for a while, it looks like it was a good year for Virginia apples. Virginia apple growers saw unseasonably warm temperatures in February and March, which led to early bloom on the trees. That early bloom brought the apple harvest 10 to 14 days earlier than usual. Apples are an important part of Virginia's agriculture industry. More than 5 million bushels are produced each year, according to the Virginia Apple Growers Association. Virginia apple sales contribute an estimated $235 million annually to the state's economy. Well, creating apple butter from that fall harvest is an art that could be traced back to colonial America. In Troutville, Ann DeMary's apple butter is made the same way her parents made it years ago. And now her family's delicious apple butter is being enjoyed across the state. Sherry McKinney has the story.
The art of making apple butter has deep roots in American history. The term butter refers to the thick and soft consistency of this bread, not to any dairy products. It's typically seasoned with cinnamon and allspice, and this sweet concoction is one that many Virginians have passed down from generation to generation.
They started off with applesauce, and it won't keep. But if you cook applesauce for hours and hours, it will turn dark brown, and then add in the sugar. It's a preservative. The Pennsylvania Dutch brought it over possibly, and then into Virginia, the Appalachia, the mountaineers, the mountain folks grasped onto the making of the apple butter, 1700s, 1800s.
The tradition for Ann's family has turned into quite a small business. Her mother and father started making apple butter for sale in 1977. 20 years later, Ann took over the family business and named her product Ann's Apple Butter.
The copper kettle I'm using today is the one my father had years ago, way back. And I'm using the same equipment that he engineered. He engineered an automatic stirrer that we can make the apple butter a lot simpler.
The traditional method of making apple butter requires apples to be cored and peeled and then made into applesauce. The applesauce will then cook over an open flame in a copper kettle with a wooden paddle, consistently stirring the mixture for close to 10 hours until it becomes a rich brown color. The entire process is very labor-intensive. DeMary slow cooks her apples also, just with the aid of an automated paddle and peeler. She adds her mother's secret spices and sugar until the recipe is perfect, and then hand pours each jar to preserve the treat.
And I use local apples from Virginia. The best apple butter you can make are the best Virginia apples you can find. So I always say it's the best Virginia apples. And you can use wine sap, you can use McIntosh, you can use Granny Smith, Yellow Delicious mixture, a mixture of Rome, and those, you can mix it.
What began as a few neighbors enjoying her mother's apple butter recipe has blossomed into a nationwide enjoyment of this Virginia finest product. Ann makes her home-style apple butter from September to February 3 to 6 times per week to fill her orders. She says it's humbling to know that her mother's recipe is reaching far beyond the Virginia borders.
I have this gentleman from Washington State. He called me, he says, I've got to have some more of your apple butter. He says, yes, we grow a lot of apples out here in Washington, but nobody makes apple butter like you do.
Reporting in Botetourt County, Virginia, I'm Sherry McKinney.
Thank you, Sherry. When a Pennsylvania dairy farmer heard that his local county officials were considering significant reduction in rural snowplow services in his community, he became concerned. While the cuts were caused by local government budget constraints, the dairy farmer knew he had to do something. He turned to the Census of Agriculture administered by the USDA's Natural Agricultural Statistics Service. Now, using the census data, he was able to illustrate the need for rural snowplow services to show his county officials the value of all the milk produced in the county and the need for truck access to dairy farms during inclement weather. The farmer said the officials had no idea of the size of the dairy industry in his county and reconsidered their plan for the snow removal budget with dairy farmers in mind. Utilizing data from the Ag Census of Agriculture, this farmer made a significant impact and benefit for his community. Officials from NASS say stories like this one should be more common, and they encourage more farmers and ranchers to take advantage of the data and benefits it provides. The first step is to complete the Census of Agriculture to ensure it is accurate and complete, and to help grow your future, boost rural services, and shape farm programs. Soon, farmers will have the opportunity to complete the 2012 Census of Agriculture. NASS will mail the census form at the end of December, and responses are due by February 4th. By responding, farmers can have a voice in shaping their future. After all, the census is your voice, your future, and your responsibility. For more information about the census, visit agcensus.usda.gov. Well, it's still not too late to get some fall lawn care to ensure you have a beautiful yard for spring. That's what we're talking about on Ag Insights. A Lawn to Die For is a series of videos that show homeowners how to care for their lawns in the fall so they can reap the rewards of a lush green lawn come springtime. Joining me today are Extension Turfgrass Specialist Mike Goatley and Shawn Askew, who is Assistant Professor at Virginia Tech, but he is also an Extension Turfgrass Weed Specialist. Gentlemen, welcome to Virginia Farming.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Really glad you could be here today. So, if I counted right, there are now a total of 10 videos online that homeowners can have access to help them take care of their lawns. Mike, I wanted to start with you. Tell me about the 3 new videos, because they're our hottest topics right now. Tell us about the 3 new videos that have been added to this.
The 3 we added cover compost applications to lawns, and there's a lot of interest in compost and recycling, and that's what compost is. Vertical mowing, and vertical mowing as a tool not only to remove thatch from lawns, but also to prep it for seed installations, which we would do in cool season grasses in the fall. And the third one is lawn aeration. Do you need to aerate your lawn, which is to physically amend it by poking holes into it to get some oxygen back down into the soil. Those are the 3 new ones that we've added recently.
Okay. Well, I'm familiar with aeration and composting. Tell me a little, what is vertical mowing? I don't know if I've ever heard that term before.
A lot of people call it a dethatching machine, but instead of blades running usual to what you're thinking about with a rotary mower that discharges to the side, the blades are running vertically into the soil itself. And the intent is, if you have an accumulation of thatch, which is a layer of non-decomposed stems, and it occurs in grasses that aggressively run side to side. So Bermuda grass is one, Kentucky bluegrass is another. Every so often you have to get through there and remove that debris and get that grass literally kind of breathing again, and that's what a dethatching or vertical mower is.
Okay, all right. Shawn, this time of season, what are you seeing as far as weeds go? what do homeowners need to do to prep their lawns for spring and to keep the weeds down?
Well, we have to dodge a lot of things that we're experiencing in the lawn, Amy, this time of year, coming off of summer stress. So lawns this time of year are going to be very thin in the fall. With our cool season turf, we're thinking about reseeding efforts that we'll be doing. And weeds are going to persist, and there are also certain weeds, dandelions, other cool season type weeds, are going to start to thrive as temperatures get cooler in the fall. And fall is an excellent time of year to consider a herbicide application for some of our hardier perennial broadleaf weeds, because in the fall, just like happens with our trees, the nutrients are being moved down to the roots to prepare those weeds for winter dormancy. And so when that's happening, you'll actually get a better movement of herbicide down to the roots and a more effective kill with a single treatment. So fall is a good time to think about that weed control, that you would be aiming at those winter weeds.
Okay. I wanted to touch on some of the other topics for the videos, because I want our viewers to know that they can go to a site. And Mike, if you would share with me, what is the best way for our viewers to find these videos so they can watch them and learn how to take care of their lawns?
One of the easiest ways is to, in your search engine, on whatever web browser you're using, just to simply type in turf and garden tips, and most likely that will be the hit that will come up, and it'll take you to the Virginia Cooperative Extension site. We've got there a series of podcast blogs which basically cover seasonal topics. So right now we're in fall and winter mode, and we're trying to give people best management tips on what they should be doing in their lawns now. The videos are linked to that site. And the ones we in particular are encouraging people to look at now and take advantage of actually seeing these things are for ones that are on choosing the best grass, because Virginia, tough state to grow any grass in, and depending on where you live, there are some things you should use and probably some things you shouldn't. So we're telling people, take a look at that, look at the ones on mowing, and look at the ones on fertility in particular, because those are all topics right now that really apply to the fall. Okay,
the Virginia Tech head golf coach
Jay
helps out. Jay helps out in the videos, right?
Yeah, Jay was basically the person that we brought in and really kind of made this happen. And we used the Pete Dye River course as our venue. So, and it's one of the prettiest golf courses right on the New River. And total renovation by renowned architect Pete Dye from a few years ago now. And our goal was that, yeah, a golf course has certain expectations. Maybe a homeowner doesn't have the same expectations, but we're trying to give them some basic management tips that say, this is going to be a healthy and functional lawn. Probably going to look pretty good, but we want one that's not going to do anything negative to the environment.
Okay, and for our viewers at home, these videos are not long. They're about 3 to 5 minutes each, and we're going to put a website address up on the screen, so you can either search by the way that Mike suggested, or take a look at the website that's on the screen right now, and you can visit that, and it'll have a link to every single one of the 10 videos. I guess I want to leave you, and Shawn, I'm going to start with you. If there was one tip that you could give to our viewers, what would it be?
I would say learn what the proper mowing height for your lawn is, and mow at that height. There's nothing that we do in a lawn more than mow. It's the one thing that almost everyone does. If you're going to do an input to the lawn, it's mowing, so we should at least get that right. And the problem is safety regulations meant to protect us from having our toes chopped off tend to limit the height that consumer lawnmowers can reach. So most people, when they buy a toaster, they put it on the middle setting. When they buy that mower and put it on the middle setting, you're way below. I mean, the middle setting on most consumer mowers would probably be at around an inch, inch and a half. And the maximum setting for most consumer mowers, 2 1/4, 2.5 inch. And our recommendations are in the 3 to 4 inch range for tall fescue, which is the predominant lawn in Virginia. So that right there tells you that if you have a consumer mower, push mower, or something you get at a box retailer, it should be set at the highest possible setting, and even at that setting you're probably at the minimum that we would consider recommending for that type of lawn. And so when you mow the lawn too low, a cool season lawn too low, you continuously basically replace the lawn with weeds. And that's one of the biggest weed control challenges I deal with. If you can't maintain a competitive lawn, it will be displaced by weeds. They're going to take that opportunity.
And then turning it around in the warmer months in summertime, if you mow that lawn too short, what what damage does that do?
The shorter you mow the lawn, the more shallow your roots get and the more stress the turf grass will experience. So in stressful periods of the year, which summer for a cool season turf, that would be the stressful period of the year, it's going to be less apt to survive that stress. And so, or the stresses, when they reduce the growth rate or the competitiveness of the grass with the weeds, the turf will retract, more light reaches the soil, the weed seed germinate, the tiny seedlings, which normally would be killed by the shadowing and the competition from the turf, they actually live long enough to survive, and slowly but surely you're creating a population of weeds that are going to survive and persist and pretty much take over the lawn. So the higher the mowing height can be, especially in stressful periods, the more competitive the turf, the less weed problems you'll have. And so I, as a weed specialist, that's the thing that I deal with. It has nothing to do with herbicides, has nothing to do with killing the weeds. It's about growing the grass so we don't need the herbicides.
Making the grass stronger than the weeds. Okay. And Mike, what about you? Do you have a tip that you would like to leave with our viewers before we leave?
Yeah, I think the most important thing would be to get a soil test done. And we tell folks that they should have a soil test done for their lawns at least every 3 to 4 years on Virginia soils. It's very inexpensive. They can work through their local cooperative extension office to help them do that, or they can probably seek out help through a private lab at one of the private lawn and garden centers. A lot of those make contacts through the private labs. The information you get back is going to help you make smart decisions because it's going to be based on science, and we only want to apply the fertilizer that we need to apply to grow a healthy lawn. So I think soil testing would be the tip I would leave. Okay,
good information. And so we contact our local extension office for anyone to come out to test the soil. And is that free of charge?
There is a $10 fee in Virginia going through Virginia Cooperative Extension. The private labs maybe just a little bit more, and all the information is essentially going to be the same. We've got videos, and we have information on our Cooperative Extension website on how to take a sample and do one that's meaningful, because you only get back as good of results as what you submit. So the information is out there. It won't take very long to do it, and again, you only need to do it 3 to 4 years. But getting your pH right, getting your phosphate and potash levels, and knowing how much nitrogen to apply makes all the difference in the world in having a healthy grass and keeping our water clean.
Okay. The one more thing I wanted to ask you before we go, you know, we're talking about fall lawn care. Well, what is our fall window? Does it stop at the first frost, or what is our fall window of lawn care?
September through November would typically be our range, and then depending on where you are in the state, and it's starting to get really cold on the western part of the state in early to mid-November, so then you logically kind of back off on what you're doing. One of the things I most emphasize to folks is don't do anything out there when the soils start to freeze, and stay off the lawn when it's frosted, because you'll see every footprint that ever came across. You got to start thinking about things like that, but fall is a great time in particular for cool season grasses to really set them up for a healthy spring of next year. So that's what we're telling people, is think about fall, because fall is so much better than spring in terms of doing all these management strategies to cool season lawns.
Okay.
I think most people think that as soon as they see a frost, it's time to just stop everything. And yes, it's important not to be on the lawn when there is a frost, but once it warms up, we actually will continue our fertilizer inputs and things well into the fall season, which is beyond the frost.
And that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
that September to November window is going to change depending on where you are in the country nationwide as well. It could shift dramatically.
There's a lot of root growth and a lot of food being put away by these plants now. And it's along the line of what Dr. Askew is saying about with the cutting heights, and we lower them in the fall and actually have a healthier plant. On warm season grasses, we totally change our philosophy and we raise them in the fall, trying to protect them from the winter. And those are all things right now in the fall season are really important to having the best possible lawn you can have for the next year.
And those are some of the tips you can get at Turf and Garden Tips at Virginia Tech.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
We'll be right back. Birds can bring color to a dull winter garden. With tips on how to attract them, here's Mark Viette.
During the winter, when the leaves have fallen and your flowers have faded, if you want to brighten up your garden, you can do that by attracting birds. And one of the things that I like to do to attract a wide array and variety of birds is to mix my own seed. I add about 10 to 20 different ingredients in the seed blend, and I have found in my own garden that I have attracted everything from the pileated woodpeckers to cardinals to nuthatches to titmouses to slate-colored juncos, and many, many more. And what I usually do is I take a variety of different seeds, and the bulk of the mix is made up of the black oil sunflower, and I take about 3/4 of this material and I pour it into a pan. To that, I add about 25% of the striped sunflower. You can then add a mixture of sunflower hearts, canary seed, 3 or 4 different types of millet, and thistle seed. And you don't need much. You just need a small amount. Even less than this is sufficient. To that, I add peanut hearts. You might want to add lettuce seed, or cabbage, or broccoli seed, or mustard seed. I even add teasel and lettuce. All of these things help attract a wide variety of birds. Poppy seed, sesame seed are just a few of the other ingredients. Then peanuts. And then sunflower chips and thistle seed again. And then finally, I add different types of fruit. And in this case, I'm going to add some raisins. Once you're done, you mix this up. It's also important to have a wide variety of bird feeders. And this is a flat feeder. You can even build this yourself in your own garage. And I like to keep it about 4 feet tall. And this is great for cardinals and blue jays and nuthatches and titmouses and even doves. They love to be on a flat feeder. Another type of feeder is a long feeder for some of the smaller birds. And then you can even have a thistle feeder like you see here. And then behind me, I have a suet feeder for the woodpeckers and some of the other birds. In addition to having a multiple number of feeders in a small area, I do place other bird feeders throughout the garden, and that helps get rid of territorial disputes. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
Taking a look at the upcoming events on our ag calendar, the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation Annual Convention will be held November 27th through 29th at the Westfields Marriott in Chantilly. There will be various speakers and workshops around the convention's theme, Freedom to Farm, Cultivating the American Dream, which focuses on the desire of farmers to effectively produce food for the world. The 2012 Virginia Farm to Table Conference will be held December 5th and 6th at Blue Ridge Community College in Weir's Cave. Speakers and panelists will address critical challenges surrounding a sustainable local food system. To register, visit the website on your screen or call Virginia Cooperative Extension by Friday, November 30th. Our destination spotlight this week takes us to Fishersville in Augusta County. Barren Ridge Vineyards is located on the Higgs family's former apple orchard, and they have also converted their apple barn into a state-of-the-art winery, preserving the original structure and wood beams. The tasting room features wonderful wines that are available daily for complimentary tours and tastings. Now, more information can be found at barrenridgevineyards.com. That does it for our show this week. Now, enjoy our special farmer tribute by our very own Jeff Ishii. Have a great week, everyone. I'm Amy Rocher for Virginia Farming.
A farmer knows when to give thanks for welcome rains in the spring and the vivid colors of fall, for rainbows and sunsets and the beauty of it all. A farmer knows when to give thanks for a good horse, a fine herd of cattle, and a tall stack of firewood, for hay in the barn, a really fresh tomato, and for realizing this is where my dad once stood. A farmer knows when to give thanks for family and friends, for the ability to work with one's hands, to improvise, create, nurture, and build while harvesting bounty from the land. A farmer knows when to give thanks for long summer days and a deep winter snow, for new beginnings each spring and the excitement of reaping what you sow. A farmer knows when to give thanks for the challenges they meet and the neighbors they greet, for the livestock they raise and for the Sundays they give praise. A farmer knows when to give thanks for a silo full to the brim and the sweet aroma of freshly cut hay. For wonderful kids and a fine bunch of grandkids. For these, each night we pray. Thanksgiving. It's a memorable time for all of us, but especially farmers. Even though they know every day is a day to give thanks.
This program's brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. From apples to zucchini, Virginia farmers work hard to put food on your table. And Farm Bureau works year-round to help farmers and all Virginians. Farming, it's all good. To learn more, go to vafarmbureau.org.
Polaris, featuring its hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicle, the multi-passenger room for 6 Ranger Crew and the 2-seated Ranger 500. Hunt, farm, or trail, Polaris has a vehicle for them all at Polaris.com.